Hey Villa fam, welcome back to another season of Honest Conversations with Two Village Girls. I'm Angie.
And I'm Serena.
For season 4, we'll be talking about difficult talks that are typically hard to discuss, but definitely needed in the home. This week, we'll be talking about generational gaps. So, first, we're going to talk about what is reflected in a generational gap.
Typically, what we see reflected in a generation gap is a lack of communication or an exchange of culture or understanding of culture. We also see like different family structure changes and just general growth and change between our parents' generation, our generation, and the generation we're raising. So, basically, what we mean by this is that we don't understand each other. And there's some kind of barrier that's stopping us from understanding each other, whether it's that lack of communication, not understanding their culture, and just different family structures from our parents' generation down to our children. And it's very easy for that misunderstanding to cause turmoil in the family because then we just tend to not tolerate the opposite generation because we don't agree with them.
Yeah. And maybe another factor could be society. Society can play another factor in generational gaps because I know the big like controversial topic is of course spankings and beatings. So like with that, society like later on start looking at spankings and beatings as a bad thing, like as physical abuse and stuff like that. So generation like the new generations will stop using spankings and beatings because it's like a form of abuse.
Absolutely. That's definitely a good way to look at it. Society definitely plays a role in how we view each other. It goes beyond the scope of like in the house, it can go into like personalities, education, like all sorts of stuff. Because also, like, one thing our parents really like pushed on us is like, oh, you have to go to college, you have to do this. In most cases, most of our parents didn't go to college and thought that they'd missed out and wanted us to do better. And now,
Mhm.
having been through college myself, it's like I could have done this in like a certification process because currently my degree hasn't opened any doors because I need a higher degree
Mhm.
to get to where I wanted to begin with.
Yeah,
So things
that's
have
true.
definitely changed.
Definitely did. I don't know. I'm thinking about like how things would be different if I would have been raised by my mom instead of my
Mm-hmm.
grandma. So I don't know. It's kind of that was just like a little thought that's been processing in my head since we started this thing just now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like with my grandma is it was more of a what is I want to say more stable. So I feel like the stable environment helped me and my like my brother my siblings become who we are today because I know if we were to live with our mom, she moved around a lot and I feel like we'd have been moving around a lot and like going to different schools, meeting different like people and
Mm-hmm.
also using different people too. So I feel like a lot would have been different if I would have been raised by my mother.
True. All about the upbringing.
Yeah, and also like the different environment too, because my mom was definitely in a different environment than my grandmother was in.
That's true. That's a good point. A big factor in why the generation gap is such a big deal is because generally the the mentality behind it is that ignorance is bliss. It's better to just not know what the other person's side is because then we can't be wrong. When in reality, it's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about what we can do to grow as people, which is why it's important to be willing to listen
Hmm.
because it's not really possible to have a conversation, have a productive conversation
Hmm.
with someone who's not willing to listen or hear you out because then really you're just like going back and forth of, well, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, over and over. I mean, have you ever had a conversation with somebody that just like no matter what you said or tried to explain to them like, hey, this is a different perspective, like not even to convince them to adopt that perspective but just to consider it, and they're just like, no,
Yeah, I feel like I have those
Mm.
conversations, but I'm not. I'm not a patient person, so I just leave that conversation alone after a few seconds. Serena,
Oh my
you more like I don't know what to call it. You more
Persistent.
yeah, you with that. You go ahead, sis. Talk to me.
I love having those conversations though. I love understanding what other people see that's different from me.
Sure,
It's fascinating because then it's like, whoa, like I've never heard this perspective before.
true. Interesting.
So let's jump into a quick story time. Let's talk about different things that we grew up with. Like this could go on in the comments actually. Bella fam, let us hear your stories in the comments of things that you grew up with that you either would or wouldn't keep with you in raising your children or grandchildren even. Like what's something that you were brought up with that has impacted you as a parent or just like reflecting back on your childhood. Do you want to go first, Angie?
Yeah, sure. So one thing like when I become a parent and have my own children, I want to be able to like let my child, communicate with their feelings or their worries or their concerns without like it being looked at as rude or disrespectful. Because like when I was raised, it was kind of hard to like talk about things that bother me or like speak up on things that I had like problems with because it was always seen as like talking back. Like it was one instance at my house, this big instance at my house,
Mm-hmm.
um, where my grandma had just told me to like, clean up the house, clean up like the living room, dining room area. And like she always told me and my older brother, like me and my older brother was like always the one who was cleaning. But
Yeah.
it's four of us. So it's just like if all four of us made this mess, like why are we always cleaning? So like
Mm-hmm.
I without even thinking, I just spoke up and was just like, I'll clean, but like they have to clean too. Like they made this mess too. And like this whole situation started um like we had to go to court and everything, like how big that situation ended
Wow.
just because of me just saying like they have to help me clean because they made it too. Like I
Yeah.
feel as though like kids should be able to like speak up or speak on their concerns or speak on what's bothering them because otherwise they just learn to um bottle it in because that's what I do. That's what I did since then. Like I don't speak, I don't say anything to her that bothers me. I just let it go. You tell me to do something, I went and did it and left it alone because I seen that it just goes out of it blows out of proportion when it shouldn't have to.
Absolutely. And then it opens a door for people to just take advantage of you because
Mhm,
they know you won't like talk back or like defend yourself or express
mhm.
yourself.
Absolutely, definitely.
That is definitely something to address like in the coming generations, like giving them that open space to say, hey, I hear you. Can you listen to me now?
Hmm.
That
Definitely.
open communication is key to a healthy relationship, even if it's a parent child.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Um, Mine is actually kind of interesting. I feel like this is something a lot of like people my age went through. It's just like going outside to play. Growing up, I didn't have my own cell phone. I didn't have like cable and internet and all that stuff just like flowing through my house. And I was one of those kids that went outside till the streetlights came on. And I feel like that's something we all loved as a kid. And I feel like that's something that's going to have to change when we start having kids, when I have my own kids. Am I going to feel as comfortable letting my kids go outside to play unsupervised until the streetlights come on the same way I did? Because now we have a lot more factors. And I won't say it's a lot more because there were kidnappings and like different things that happen to kids at my age or as a child growing up. But nowadays, there's a lot more like targeting of Black children and
Hmm.
just young children in general, that taking your eyes off your child and allowing them like to go out with no form of contact, no form of identification of any kind is something that I feel like we have to consider when having kids is how safe is what's the phrase? To what extent do we allow our children to be children in a world where Black children are targeted? I feel like there's a level of safety or a level of threat even that has just been growing in the Black community of like, okay, can my children go out and play without being targeted? Is this community safe for me? How safe is it? Can my child really be a child? And having to address that in a generation where our parents used to just let us go outside and just as long as we were in the area, maybe they could see us, maybe they couldn't. I wasn't always visible in the neighborhood, but they knew I was in the neighborhood just because they did. There was no like doubt or second guessing of like, is my child really safe out here? In the time that we are living in, I feel like now we have to really just like weigh like, oh, if my child goes out, how far can they really go? And whose houses should they stay away from? Like there's just a lot more, I don't know, negativity.
There's just a lot more going on in this world right now. It really is. I definitely had that fear. I think about that when I having kids. Like, dang, I'm not gonna be able to, let my kids go out and let them play freely without me sitting out worrying and being scared if something gonna happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother didn't. She really didn't let us off the block though, so it's probably gonna be the same. We couldn't leave the block because she wanted to see us. She wanted to open the door and be able to see us.
Did she sit at the door?
I mean, not really. Like the
Yeah.
door was open. Like she can always just come to the door and like open it and see. But yeah, we couldn't leave. I feel like that would probably be the same if I had kids. I'm probably sitting outside watching them every time they go outside. I'm coming outside with you.
That's my thought process. I'll sit outside with you. I don't know if sitting, like being inside, cooking, cleaning, and then like pop my head out and who knows what I'll see. Like,
yeah. I don't think that's just like us being worried and stuff like that. But shoot, this world be dangerous.
Yeah.
You know?
This is like that movie, The Hate U Give.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that movie?
I definitely did. Did we see it together? I feel like we have.
Possibly. I definitely recommend that movie, Villa Fam. It's The Hate U Give. And it basically talks about like having those difficult conversations with your family about being a child, and in this case being Black children, having to deal with like systemic racism and just growing up having to be cautious while being a child at the same time. It's a great movie.
Absolutely recommend. It's a very good movie. I think I cried in that movie.
So let us know, Villa Fam, some of the things that you grew up with that you either plan on adopting or not carrying into your future with your future children. And that being said, thanks, Villa Fam, for tuning in again to another episode with Two Village Girls. Please subscribe to our channel if you are new. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them down below. Also, go ahead and hit that bell to get notified when new videos drop. Please follow us on all our social medias, which will be listed in the description box below. As always, we want to send you out with some positive vibes to get you through the rest of your week. This week's inspirational quote is by King Hussein I, and they say, "It is my firm belief that I have a link with the past and a responsibility to the future. I cannot give up. I cannot despair. There's a whole future, generations to come. I must keep trying." Thanks, Villa Fam. Bye.
Bye.